Good to see everybody this morning, and I'll get this microphone on in a minute, but maybe others come in, and welcome to Evergreen Sunday School hour this morning. This time we'll take up our Sunday School offering and ask Brother Doug to give thanks.
Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for all that you do, for all that you've done, for this opportunity to be here, to hear your word, to strengthen our faith. Guide us through this, Lord. What an amazing, wonderful, loving God you are. We're so blessed by you. Lord, we ask you to bless this offering, to be used for all your glory. And we also ask, Lord, that if there are any hearts that have been touched, we know that you touch our hearts today and bring them home. These things we ask in Jesus' holy name.
Yes, we do. Amen. Praise the Lord. Like I say, good morning again, and welcome to Evergreen Sunday School hour. Look around you, you see there's a couple that's not here. That you sits right there to your left, my right there, and Preacher David's sick this morning, and so the service will be a little bit different this morning. I don't know about tonight altogether yet, but you know what we got to do? We need to carry on, keep on carrying on. That's what we want to do. So remember Preacher David this morning. He's sick this morning. Amen. Let's also remember the ones down in Mississippi, Alabama, especially Mississippi, that had the terrible tornado. You know, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, when I come back overseas, Dorothy and I, we got married and went to San Antonio Station down there. I was down there right at going on 2 years. But I seen a funnel cloud down there, and the weather gets bad, that Tornado Alley, Texas, Mississippi, whatever, get right through that alley. And it's supposed to start raining here in a couple of hours, that's all like. But anyway, it's good being in God's house this morning. Friday night, we had a senior citizen, we had a fish supper. And I just did an abbreviated lesson of Isaiah 35, chapter 35, verse 8. I want to go back, re-examine that this morning, have a little extra time. I told Brother Norman, the other night, Jay Bird had already had the fish on the counter, and look here, people want fish hot, so I took a little small lesson. I've done a small lesson, it lasted 8 minutes. 8 minutes. But it'll be a little bit longer, 8 minutes this morning. All right, I didn't get nobody the sound room this morning. Can you pull us up Isaiah 35, 8? Isaiah 35, 8. All right. Look at the scriptures very well. And pray for me. I don't know which is worse, me or Jay about this right here. But Jay is here this morning. Jay should do the worship service at 11 o'clock. Pray for him. Isaiah wrote this right here. And a highway shall be there, and a way, and it shall be called the way of holiness. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for those, the wayfaring men. Though fools shall they not err the end. There's 2 more verses. Verse 9. No lion shall be there, which that's actually the devil in the New Testament says Satan. No lion shall be there, nor any ravenous beast shall go up thereon. It shall not be found there, but the redeemed shall walk there. Now look at verse 10. And the ransom of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with songs and everlasting joy upon their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. For years and years, Sister Marie and Brother Billy, and I played for many, many years. I played the guitar, mandolin, bass, dobro. I probably fiddled way back, whatever, different things. And she always sung a song, Walking Up the King's Highway. Everybody, you've been in the Free Will Baptist very long, many, many years. You, Sister Bree, sung that. But we see there's one way, only one road. Share a kind of comical story, true story. about a highway. Now, I'm going to talk to you about then, and I'm going to bring it up now. One of them is secular, Old Testament. Today is a spiritual highway. But years ago, when they had gas stations in this country, you know, you drive up, the gas attendant running the station, his helper, running to pump gas. Well, a good friend of mine, he was pumping gas. He said a big old long Cadillac pulled up there, out of state, New York, wherever, come on. And the man wasn't very courteous driving the big Cadillac. The boy that was pumping the gas on another vehicle, he said, "Hey, man, come here a minute. His friend of mine said, "Sir, I finished, I'll be here." He kept, "Hey, come here a minute. And finally he said, "Hey, buddy, you gonna come over here?" And he finished pumping the gas in that particular vehicle. He went over and said, "Can I help you, sir?" He said, "How far is to Myrtle Beach? How did I get to Myrtle Beach?" This gas attendant said, "Look here, this is Conway." He said, "Take 701 south for 36 miles, turn to get down to Georgetown, turn left and go up 17 north, probably about 25, 30 miles, and you will get to Myrtle Beach." Now, this man was a Christian that told this fellow with a big, long Cadillac that. That's right, but it's wrong, Jim. What you think of this man thought about, he drove clean to Georgetown, and got to Georgetown, and went to the left, you know, went toward Debbie Beach, all these places, we know all these beaches are, went up 17. But you know, it's not so, Brother Hunter, with the King's Highway. There's only one way on the King's Highway, and God prepared that. Now, tell you a little thing I shared with the seniors Friday night. You know what the oldest road in the United States of America is, Joey? It's the oldest road in the United States of America. We probably travel it, a lot of us, every day. It's actually called the King's Highway. I'll tell you where that come from. But it's the oldest road, run 1,300 miles, actually a little over 1,300, actually run from Boston, Massachusetts, down to Savannah, down to Charleston, down even to Savannah. When our country was being discovered, they wanted a road so they could have trade on, they could have transportation on. Keep in mind now, the West was not discovered yet, just the eastern seaboard. And so they called that the King's Highway after King Charles of England, where it come from. And how many times we all drove on 17 north, 17 south. But that is the oldest road in America. We traveled every day. When the Revolutionary War got over, General George Washington had won the victories from fighting England or the British. He come down and he took that scenic tour. He took that southern tour from Savannah right on up there. And that's the reason they called it the King's Highway. How many gets on that road? You ever seen the King's Highway sign? That's where that come from, Brother Adam. Long time ago, 300, whatever, many years. But now I want to talk about another highway. I got to think about this lesson. Preacher David spoke a few services ago. He talked on Psalms 137, how the children of Israel was in Babylonian captivity. There at Babylon, they sat down and wept under the willow, hung their harps up in the willow tree. Well, after 70 years, God wanted his people to go back to Zion or Jerusalem or Israel, you might say. He wanted them to go back. You know what? Because Jesus had to be born. Israel, if you know anything about Jewish history, Sister Lois, the Jewish history got so small, there was only maybe a few people, but still Jesus, God made a way. Although Israel got real small a couple times. Captivity was there, but Jesus had to be born. They had to go back to Jerusalem. Now, after 70 years, during this process time, God had inspired men, probably wicked men. You know, God could use wicked men that ain't saved for betterment of his kingdom. Israel had to have a way, when they left Babylon, to go back to Jerusalem. They wanted a safe journey. A safe journey. So thus, Isaiah was writing this morning about this King's Highway. And it was actually a road. They called it King's Highway. I did know what it was in Latin or Hebrew. It's via, which via means road or settlement. I don't really know. Somebody might know what. Say again? No, that's in Jerusalem. No, that's for the way of the cross. I walked up that cross. You 3 times, I've done twice. But no, it's via something. It don't matter. Those days, via was a name of a road or whatever. But so much for that. Isaiah, God told Isaiah to write this down right here. You know, Isaiah, tell you this right here. Isaiah is a book within a book. In fact, a lot of people says this is a completely Bible itself, the book of Isaiah, because it got six chapters. It divides the Old Testament, New Testament. It's amazing how God put everything together. But I want to talk this morning about this road. But it's not a secular road this morning, Brother Hunter. We travel on a spiritual road. And I won't hold it but a few minutes. I promise. I don't teach very long. It'll be a little longer, 8 minutes. But but now I've read and studied this thing a lot. Some say 20,000 people was carried into Babylonian captivity, where they hung their harps upon the willow, sat down by the two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates River. They sat down between the two rivers here. But you know what? Sad thing about it, I've said it so many times, Brother Donnie. Time could be our biggest friend, but it could be our biggest enemy. Now, 70 years that expired. But everybody, when they prepared this way, or the King's Highway, the way of holiness, to go back from Babylon to Jerusalem, a lot of people, because they had got married to the Babylonians, they had took up their worship of religion. The Babylonians was it's actually one of the 7 wonders of the world, the way Babylon was created. A lot of them didn't want to go back. You know what? Times change, Sister Ramona. People never change. Hunter, they might have been 20 sometime, 22,000, I've heard all kind of amounts, that left Jerusalem to go to Babylon, and they say 42,000 returned, whatever, thereabout. And maybe that's the estimate there. How many people today that's living in Babylon, Brother Jerry, they don't want to go back to Jerusalem. They'd rather stay where they're at. Those Jews love God so much. They were some serious people that were taken into captivity, and they longed for that day they could actually go back home and worship in Solomon's temple. One temple. Babylon, at highest rank, had 50 heathen temples. There, they would offer up their little babies and children to the god Molech. They would offer their babies up. How in the world could people be so sorry to want to stay in Babylon and offer their own flesh and blood up to that heathen god over there and not go back to Jerusalem? Look around us every day, Brother Darrell. There's a lot of people don't want to go back to Jerusalem. They got it made in Babylon. And I tell you what, sin has its pleasure for a short season. The Bible do tell us that. The Bible said that men love darkness rather than do light. How in the world, after 70 long years, would you not want to leave this heathen gods and go back to a place called Jerusalem? Go back where he could worship it and rebuild the temple. Keep in mind, they had tore the temple. They had to rebuild the temple. That's in the book of not Hosea, but a lot of books, Ezra and places like that. Haggai is a good book on that. But you see what I'm talking about this morning? They called this road the highway of holiness. Let's look at the spiritual realm this morning. All my life, I've been told what holiness was not, but very little of that, Sister Liv, what holiness is. First of all, within 25, 30 miles of this place right here, there's no way this morning that I can get in their sanctuary and teach I got a tie on. Whether I got a tie on or not, Brother Hunter, that don't make me holy or not holy. But they do that. If any of you men got tassels on your shoes, you couldn't take part in the worship service. You might sit in an auditorium congregation. All right? They say you don't supposed to cut your hair. And I know, Brother William, your mom and my grandma, the old-time holiness women back there, grandma had hair down here. Did that make them really holy? Think about that, Brother Harold. The length of your hair, how about long dresses? Is a lady a holiness lady because she wears a long dress? The Muslims do that. You can't, if you better oversee a place like that, you can't hardly see nothing but eyes if you see that much, Brother Darrell. So we see that the length of the dress, the length of the hair do not make them holy. Now, we've been taught that. I come up through the ranks. I know, Rich Elizabeth, I've heard it all. I've heard everything Brother Jim said drinking water was a sin. I've heard it all. The Pharisees was that same way. But Jesus cleaned their cloth. He said, look here, on the outside of the sepulchre, you whitewash it. But inside of you is nothing but men's bones. What Jesus told the Pharisees. So it ain't what we put on or maybe altogether put off or put on, but I'm saying that God do have a dress code. I really feel that way. And only the Bible says dress modestly. So again, just walking on the King's Highway, you could have a dress hung down to your ankles, and your men could have hair and sidewall army haircut like we used to have years ago, have all that kind of stuff. They don't make you holy. You go to Amish country, Pennsylvania, Ohio, a place like that. All the men wear beards and dress in black. They holy? That don't make them holy. Look here. We're going to talk about the King's Highway this morning. I got 5 short points of what it is to walk on this highway of holiness. And let me tell you right now, a little information about Free Will Baptist and Methodist. They are a lot of denominations now say, well, I'm Pentecostal holiness. I had a lot of family Pentecostal. In fact, I say the Pentecostal holiness church. That didn't make it holy because the name said that. It's what's in your heart. It's what kind of fruit you bear, what kind of tree you bear in your life. All right. The Amish people, that didn't make them holy because they did not use no electricity. I know a preacher that's going on to be the Lord now, a good friend of mine that was in this particular denomination. Every time I seen him, he wore overalls. He didn't want to do nothing modern. That didn't make him more holy. Now, I'm going to tell you this morning exactly what some things we had to do to walk on this King's Highway, or highway of holiness, as Isaiah called it. Let's think about it right now. Get back to what I started to tell you about the nomination. Bear with me and Jay today. I mean, it's just horses and pollen. You know, we know that I'm a Free Will Baptist by choice, and I really believe the way we teach is the correct way. That I acknowledge that other denominations are good people, Baptist, Methodist, Pentecostal, Church of God. I know a lot of people, all denominations. But we hear so much about holiness churches. Where do you think they come from? Start off with, they come from the Methodist Church. John Wesley started the Methodist Church. Benjamin Randall, New Hampshire, started Free Will Baptist. Paul Palmer started Free Will Baptist in North Carolina. Well, that's the daddy of the holiness churches today, the Free Will Baptist and the Methodist. Now, if you want to learn anything about Free Will Baptist history, Dr. David Crow preached here one time. He's a genius on Free Will Baptist history. And I read behind him on stuff like that. But they just branched out in man-made laws, man-made rules. They said, well, I'll do this here. I won't do this here. That'll make us holy. Y'all stay with it. They was controversial in the early 1900s about, with the Free Will Baptist, go to the 2 works of grace, like Charles Wesley Methodist told 2 works of grace. Then another denomination said, well, I'm going to add another work of grace. I'm going to put 3 works of grace. Can I tell you this morning, it ain't 3 works of grace. It's all grace this morning. You know, I used to hear people talk like this, and I had people tell me this right here. That you're in the Army, you got a private, you got a corporal, you got a sergeant. And every time you get another work of grace, you get a little stronger in God's army. Well, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. I mean, whatever. We need to lay down and pick up everything we can, put off the old man. Because the old man wants to rise up, don't he, Brother Hunter? Stuff like that. But 5 quick points this morning. Let me read a verse 11, then we'll repeat what it is. Let's look at verse 11. No, I won't go there. No, I won't the next chapter. That's all right. Let's hold it right there. We won't go to verse chapter 36. That continues on. When the Bible was wrote, there wasn't no paragraphs. It was everything run right together. So let's stop at this verse here. Now, if you dissect this lesson, Isaiah 35, verse 8, 9, and 10, and don't go down into verse chapter 36, this continuation. But let's just start there at verse 10, okay? For time's sake, too. To walk on this King's Highway, Brother Donald, it's a separated way. This is a separated highway we got to walk on, Brother Darrell. People say, well, it's a sanctified highway. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And we know when we get on this King's Highway, our goal should be headed back toward Jerusalem. But you know what? I'm going to tell you right now, you can think about what you want to think. You know, y'all know me personally, how I believe doctrine and everything. Just because they left Babylon, what would have kept them going back home? The Israelites wanted to go back home, did it? Egyptian bondage first got free, Moses freed them, did he? So, I don't know. But here, my point is this morning, it's a separate, it's a sanctified way that we need to walk on. And our goal should always be, we're headed toward Jerusalem. And I'm going to tell you something. If you read the obituaries, there are a lot of people been going back toward Jerusalem. I know a lot of people that passed away. Y'all do too. Brother J.C. Williams just the other night, Friday night, I believe it was. But anyway, to get on this King's Highway, we can't have no extra things that would slow us down. No wonder Paul said he run this race with patience, and he lay aside every weight, every sin which easily possesses. Paul was also on this highway. I'm talking about a spiritual highway now. I see that if you walk on this highway here, it's a sanctified way, it's a separated way. And I really think the closer we get to Jerusalem, the better we ought to be, because we'd never see the city lights. A friend of mine had fought World War II. And back in those days, my daddy left on a boat from Sacramento, went to Japan. Daddy had no idea where he's going at. Harold, when we come on, pretty well give us orders, did it? Somewhat orders, you know. But this man, only thing he knew, the Japanese had surrendered. He didn't know. He knew he was going back home, but didn't know how long it'd take. So they got expecting to get close, somewhere close to the western United States. A bunch of sailors and soldiers got outside on the deck, and they looked. And this man says, you know what, I think I'm getting home. I'm getting home. We traveled just 2 weeks here by this big old boat here. And the man said, what do you think? He said, I can see the lights of home. Good story. But anyway, can we see the lights of home, Brother Joey? The lights might be brighter if we only knew when our day is coming. Keep in mind, very first point, walking on this King's Highway, you will live a separated life. And I could go on and on and on and on what it means to be a separated life. But you know what? Nobody don't have to tell you what's sin. Brother Hunter, you know what's wrong. What ain't. We all do. Guarantee if we've been born again, what's the first thing we commit? We commit sin, what's the very first thing comes? Condemnation, called guilt. And I don't think a Christian can live with guilt. I can. You have to find your oldest way. God forgive me. So the very first point of this road here is the ones that's been separated. Keep in mind, this is a road now going from Babylon to Jerusalem. This road was preserved for one that had got out of captivity. They was going back home. They were going back home. A few more minutes, I'll stop. The Bible says here, if you read these here 3 verses, that it's so plain that a wayfarer man, even a fool, a person that really don't have much knowledge, I believe they're walking on a simple highway, not only sanctified, separated highway, but even the simple people can walk on this highway. It don't take money to get on this road. It don't take education. When I was talking about Benjamin Randall, Paul Palmer, and John Wesley, when they come up north, come down south, East Coast, Appalachians, mountains that far over west, a lot of them had to wash off. I've heard stories that a lot of old-time preachers, they couldn't even read and write, Brother Jim. Then some of them become what they call a circuit rider. I've heard my old people say that in Polish Funk, that old Uncle Neil Hendricks, preacher Neil Hendricks, gone on to be the Lord many, many, many years. I don't even remember him. But he'd take his horse and buggy. One Sunday morning, he'd go to maybe New Hope. The next Sunday morning, he would go to Polish Swamp, Cedar Grove, Greenwood Baptist, different ones. And he would make around as circuit riders. They paid the price. A lot of them didn't have the education. A statement I used to hear when I was a boy, and I actually remember when I was a youngin', a preacher would have to get somebody to read the text. He couldn't even read, Brother Tony. He said, folks, I can't read my name in boxcar letters. I never get how he said that. Whatever that meant, I guess it's a big letter on the side of a train, what it meant. But it was a simple road. They lived on that sanctified road. They lived on that simple road. I tell you what, a lot of times, and I believe in education, I believe in everybody going to seminary, preaching, going to school, whatever, get all the education they can. But it's a simple way, brother. It's a simple road. It's a sanctified highway. It's a simple highway. Thank God it's a simple highway. You know what I like about this highway, Brother Hunter? It's a safe highway. Now, you look at verse 8, 9, and 10. Bible talked about the lion wants to come on the road. The ravenous beast, that represents sin. That represents our spiritual enemy, Satan, and his demonic forces. As long as we're on this road, Preacher Chris, you'll say amen, brother. We're safe as long as we're on this road, brother. We got to stay on this road. It's a safe road. It's a safe road. A real good friend of mine, like maybe a couple, 2 or 3 days, died. The doctor had gave him up, the family was around there. Only one person was in the room. And he looked at this man and said, I tell you what, I've lived for Jesus all these years, but I'm telling you something, it's a fearful thing to fall in the hands of an unfriendly God. And this man was sanctified, a simple man. He believed in safety on this highway, King's Highway. But if a man lives that close to the Lord, why did the Bible say, if the righteous scarcely be saved, where shall the sinner and the ungodly appear? You ever thought about 3 categories? Regardless how you believe about it, it's King's Highway here. You might say, well, once I get on it, I can't get off of it. I could get off the road this morning if I wanted to. I chose to come to Evergreen Church, didn't you, Brother Harold? I chose to come this morning. And I think that a lot of people went back to Babylon. I think a lot of people was attracted and just turned aside. Said the journey's too great, hundreds and hundreds of miles. I just don't want it. It costs too much. Well, it's a safe road as long as you want it to be a safe road. Put it that way. I'm going to tell you another kind of highway I think it is this morning for us. It's a satisfying highway. Once upon a time, there was a time in my life that I was scared to go to sleep, Brother Harold. Overseas especially, I was scared to go to sleep. I knew I wasn't right with God. Lord, if you help me, Lord, I promise you, I'll never do this again. I promise you. I didn't tell my buddies at the barracks and one club. I didn't tell them that. That's what I told Lord one-on-one. Lord, I'll never do this no more. Next night, whenever. Same thing again. Lord, I promise you, Lord, I'll never do this no more. But I did. I did. And we're still not perfect. We could build this highway holy. We could build this King's Highway, and that don't make us perfect. But we're striving for perfection. But it's, like I say, number 4, it's a satisfying highway. Knowing that if we take our last breath, we committed our life to Jesus Christ, that he would take care of us. Brother J.T. Barfield, I carried him a receipt. I'll say Dr. Paul Richardson. He looked at me. We got over there before we got to the hospital. He said, you know, the Lord told me my work's over. Now this is it. I was driving, didn't say nothing. He said, my work's done. But you said the Lord to go with me to the very end of the world. He died. The family met together an hour before the visitation started, like procedures are in funeral homes. Everybody walked out. Brother J.T. laying there. I said, Brother J.T., I know exactly what you told me about a month ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, whatever, it wasn't long before time, that Jesus is with you. You can't hear me, but I guarantee you said Jesus would go with me to the end of the world, end of the way. And I guarantee he did. Thank God this morning, it's a satisfying highway. None of us want to face God with sin in our life. And we know we do better. And like I say, last but not least, there are many roads that leave out of Conway. 501, couple directions, 378, one direction, 905, Highway 97, one both directions. A lot of roads lead out of Conway again. But the road we're traveling on this morning, and I'll soon come to a close, the road we're traveling on this morning is a spiritual highway. It's a spiritual road this morning. We need to be on that road this morning. And I hope the ones that are watching on YouTube and Facebook or whatever, that you'll make sure that your peace calling and election is sure. Need to work wise days is coming or not, no matter work. That night can be coming very quickly, very quickly. A lot of people get closed, and a lot of people get on this highway, and they think they're right. True story. Years and years ago, my uncle was living, daddy was living. They were going to Nashville, Tennessee, nobody but him. Uncle Elmer did all the driving. Well, he got on 95 without any problem, got on 26 without any problem. Well, he got up there around Asheville. Y'all been at a place where I-40 comes, up in there, I-40. Well, Elmer was doing the driving. Daddy said, Elmer, I believe you went the wrong way. Elmer said, oh, no, I did. Daddy said about 30 minutes later, Elmer, look here. These hills ain't getting hillier, the mountains ain't getting taller. Elmer, what happened? Well, let's drive on a little bit farther and we'll see. And before they went to Salem Raleigh area in North Carolina, Elmer said, you know what? I'm on the right road, but I'm going the wrong way. These people in Babylon here this morning, when they were done, that road run both ways. It just wasn't a one-way road. It was a two-way road. It was a famous road back in those days, even before Isaiah come along. Anyway, are you traveling on the right road this morning? Are you walking on the King's Highway this morning? Dorothy, you sang that song, King's Highway? You know the words to it? I remember playing it, but I don't remember the words. But it's a good old song. Anyway, I'll close and we'll take a break and pray for Jay this morning. Thank you for praying for me this morning. I cut it a little bit short because of my throat. Let's remember our pastor today in prayer, okay? You see. This time we'll take a break and then we'll be back to start at 11 o'clock. Have a pretty good break this morning, okay? But God bless you.